I'm making a homemade bean soup, and good homemade bean soup calls for good homemade bread. So I'm going to show you how simple, fast, and how delicious home bread making can be. Grab a pen and paper. I'm gonna give ingredients for a homemade bread. So we are gonna start with 5 cups of wheat flour. We're gonna need a cup of water for our yeast. So in a cup of warm water, we're gonna add 1 teaspoon of raw sugar and 2 teaspoons of dry active yeast, a teaspoon of salt, and we're going to need some additional water for our dough. In addition to what I just have shown, I am also using a little flax seed. This is ground flax seed and some wheat bran. I like to add some fiber and protein to my bread. You don't have to do this, of course, but it's just a little healthy option that once you get your bread mastered, you can start incorporating other healthy ingredients. So let's start by adding sugar into warm water. So add 1 tablespoon of sugar. This is raw sugar. Mix it well. And then we're going to add some dry yeast. And I just want to tell you quickly why we put sugar inside. Sugar is actually food for yeast. As yeast will grow much faster if it has something to feed it. It's because this is pretty much the bacteria what we have in here. So we want to give a little sugar to our yeast, so our yeast will become active faster and it will rise better. So we have 2 and a little extra. While yeast is rising, I'm going to put some salt, approximately about a tablespoon of salt, and this is a sea salt. And I'm also going to incorporate some flaxseed, about a handful of flaxseed, and some wheat bran, just for the nuttiness of the bread and for the fiber content and also the protein content. And then I'm going to mix all this together and prepare flour for the yeast and water. Yeast is ready, and so are mine. Okay, now we're going to add yeast to our flour. And I'm going to rinse this with a little extra water. We started with 3 cups of water here, so we'll see how much we're left with at the end, and that will give us a measurement for this recipe. Okay. Now it's all in the bare hands. I'm going to just start rolling flour into the middle and start forming a dough. The dough is definitely too hard. Just going to add a little more water. And continue mixing. It's very important to invest enough effort, enough work in the beginning with your dough, because you want to get the consistency of the dough right, and that will definitely improve the quality of the bread. And when I say quality, I mean softness and the flavor and the look, of course, as well. A touch more water, because we want to get our dough to be nice and soft and silky. Okay, let's work the water in. It's very important to work in enough moisture into your dough in the beginning, and because you want to start with the soft dough, and that will ensure the softness of the bread later on. So this dough is looking nice and soft. As you can see, it's kind of gooey, and so far we have used, let me see here, we have used exactly 2 cups of water. And I just want to run this again by you. In addition to this cup of water that we used for our yeast, I have added about 2 more cups of lukewarm water. Now we do have a sticky dough, which is perfectly fine, because what I do now, I'm going to add some flour around and work until I can form a nice dough. So we're just going to keep adding a little by little. And as you see how I'm scraping all the leftovers, we're not wasting anything. And all this can be used for a dough later on. It will be all nicely combined. So let's just add a little bit more. I'm also going to clean my fingers. But I also wanted to mention that we started with 5 cups of flour, if you remember. What I have on the side here is additional cup of flour that I'm going to use for this exact purpose, just to form the dough. So altogether, you're going to end up needing about 5.5 or maybe a little more cups of flour. Okay, now we're going to start molding our dough. The dough needs to be nice, soft, and it has to kind of stay away from the dish. It's not supposed to stick to the dish, yet it should remain soft inside. Okay, it's looking good. This dough feels beautiful under my hands. It's so nice and soft, feels just like a silk. And if you see, it's finally not sticking to our dish any longer. And see how nice it looks. And what we have on the bottom here, we're just going to scrape this and throw it away. And then we'll continue working with our dough. I remember when I was a child, I was only 10 years old when I started baking bread for my family. And I remember my mother would put me to do this exact thing with both of my hands, just kind of knitting, and she would tell me, more you do it, the better bread will be. So I tried very hard to knit my bread really good, so the family would not make fun of me or would not make a joke saying, oh, look at how her bread turned out, it's so hard. So it's important to give enough attention to bread in this stage, just to knit it very good so all the ingredients inside combine really well. And to finalize it, I'm just going to add touch of olive oil, just around like this. And then I'm going to work it a little more. Okay, and what I'm doing here is actually kind of moisturizing the dough. So this way the dough will not have a crust while it rises. See? Okay. So we have a little oil now on the bottom, and we have a little oil on the top of this dough. And as I said, this oil will act as a moisturizer for the dough, and it will prevent dough from cracking while it rises. And now it's time to go and rest. And here's the final touch. We're just going to put the kitchen towel around this and let it rest. Let's check how our dough is doing. It's looking good. It's about tripled in size. Here comes the fun part now. If you remember, we still have some flour, additional flour. It's our 6th cup. You can of course sprinkle some of that flour on a towel. I have a regular kitchen towel here. Oh, this is a beautiful dough. Full of bubbles. Okay. And then we're going to just work this dough a little bit more. And then I'm going to cut it on two pieces, equal pieces. Alright, this is looking really good. I can feel and hear little bubbles. Even you can hear little bubbles coming up, which is a good sign. That means our bread has a lot of air inside, which is also a really good sign that we are going to have a great bread. Now we're going to cut our bread into, or dough into equal parts. I'm doing this because I want to bake 2 loaves of bread, but if you don't want to do that, you can keep the whole dough in one piece and just bake a big round bread. But I'm going to show you why I'm doing this in a minute, and you will understand why I have 2 equal parts here, because I want to bake 2 separate loaves. And here goes the other one. Now that they're separated, I'm going to let them rest for another 5 minutes. Now the dough is resting. I'm just gonna put some olive oil in a baking pan. We don't want our dough to get stuck to the pan, right? Okay. And I'm gonna start spreading this out. This. The reason I'm doing this is I want to thin out our dough, and then I'm going to roll it and make a nice loaf. Now that I have almost perfect square, I'm going to show you what we're going to do next. And now you're going to see why I have my dough on the kitchen towel. So I'm just going to roll it like this. Keep rolling it until I make a little cute little loaf, and then it's going in the baking pan. First baby is safely tucked in. Here goes our second one. And our loaves are ready. Alright. Touch of oil on the top. And now we're going to let them sit and rise once again before we put them in the oven to bake. Our bread looks like it's ready for the oven. 350 for about an hour. Bread is looking good. It's been only about 15 minutes it's in, so we're going to let it sit for another 40 minutes on 350 and let it bake until it's golden brown. Our bread is ready. Let's see what it looks. Oh, it's beautiful. It looks really good, really good. And just in time because kids are home right now. Okay, let's get this bread out. Be careful, it's very hot. I'm gonna set them up on here so that it will, the bread will get a little bit air from underneath so it doesn't get wet and soggy. And I'm just gonna let it cool off for a little bit. Here it goes. And now the bread is ready for cutting. Oh, how nice. Just love the smell of fresh bread. And here we go. It's still very hot. Oh, how nice. Crunchy, still steaming hot. Look how nice and fluffy it is. Oh, beautiful, just beautiful. It breathes. There's nothing in life like a fresh home-baked bread. And what I enjoy more than the taste, tasting it and eating it, is actually baking it and enjoying the aroma of fresh baked bread in the house. So I hope you too will get busy and start baking your own. And when you do it, just think about how blessed we are that we have bread in our home and in our life. Enjoy it and eat well. With bread like this one, only thing missing is a good bowl of homemade bean soup. To learn how to make a bean soup, just check our video on a bean soup or navy bean soup, and I'll show you how to make an awesome bean soup as well.